For over 50 years the savage killer behind the notorious 1947 Black Dahlia murder eluded police. The Black Dahlia case photos were grainy and unclear in 1947, but AI enhancement has brought shocking new details to light. Detectives now see marks they never noticed before. The way her body was positioned wasn't random. It required medical training and advanced surgical skills. The cuts were too clean, too precise, and the positioning too perfect. Only someone with years of training could do this. When investigators compared the enhanced images to medical textbooks from the 1930s, they found an exact match, and it was someone the police may have protected. Elizabeth Short was born on July 29, 1924 in Hyde Park, Massachusetts. Her family looked normal from the outside. Her father, Cleo, made good money building miniature golf courses during the 1920s. At that time, those little courses were booming across America, and people loved them. Seemed like her family had it all. But things changed fast. In 1929, when Elizabeth was only 5, the stock market crashed and Cleo lost everything. A year later, something even darker happened. In 1930, Cleo drove to the Charlestown Bridge and left his car there, making it look like he had jumped off and killed himself. He didn't. He simply vanished and left his wife and 5 daughters behind. For years they believed he was dead. They held what they thought was his funeral. But Cleo was alive in California, starting over like none of them mattered. When he finally wrote to them, Elizabeth's mother, Phoebe, refused to take him back. But little Elizabeth never let go. She kept writing him letters, like she still wanted his love or maybe his help someday. That moment changed her forever. She never really recovered from that kind of betrayal. Her childhood didn't get easier. She had serious breathing problems. Asthma and bronchitis made winters in Massachusetts almost deadly. At just 15, doctors cut into her lungs to help her breathe. That surgery left scars that stayed on her body for life. In 1940, when she was 16, doctors finally told her she couldn't survive in the cold. She had to leave. That's when she started spending winters in Miami with family friends. She never went back to school. That sickness shaped everything. It made her look fragile, almost ghost-like. But it also gave her a dreamy look. People never forgot. She was always escaping something: illness, pain, cold, or the past. Back in Massachusetts, her mother, Phoebe, was working as a bookkeeper, trying to feed 5 daughters alone during the Great Depression. They left their home and squeezed into a small apartment in Medford. Elizabeth went to Medford High School, where classmates called her Medford High's Deanna Durbin. Deanna was a famous actress then, and Elizabeth clung to that nickname like it meant she could be someone else. Her high school autograph book is filled with those messages. She didn't just watch movies. She lived inside them. She would say she had movie auditions when she didn't. She imagined Hollywood like it could save her. In 1940, the same year she dropped out of school, she started working at a drugstore in Florida. Her friends called her Betty. But that store wasn't just a job. It became her mirror, her practice studio, her stage. She tried on different looks and styles. She wore long gloves and black suits and spent all her money on clothes instead of savings. That transformation from sick girl to stunning young woman wasn't about vanity. It was survival. People noticed her. She turned heads. Even before she got to Hollywood, she looked like she belonged in black and white film. Then came the shock that reopened her oldest wound. In December 1942, a letter arrived. It was from Cleo, her father, the man who faked his suicide 13 years earlier. He was alive, living in Vallejo, California, and working at the Mare Island Naval Shipyard. Elizabeth, now 18, went to join him. She must have hoped it would fix everything. It didn't. He didn't want a daughter. He wanted a maid. He expected her to clean and cook while he worked. But Elizabeth had already lived on her own. She wasn't that kind of girl anymore. She stayed up late. She dated. She dreamed. Cleo didn't like that. He called her lazy and kicked her out just a few weeks later in January 1943. Once again she was alone. That was the final break. Elizabeth was homeless. She had no job, no savings, and nowhere stable to stay. She began living in other people's homes, always temporarily. A family once found her sleeping in a movie theater and let her stay for a while. But even they eventually asked her to leave. Her habits were messy. She wasn't what they expected, so she kept drifting. She used her beauty to survive. Meals, beds, favors, everything depended on how well she could charm someone. But behind the pretty face was a girl who had been abandoned again and again, and now she didn't know where she belonged. On January 29, 1943, she arrived at Camp Cook, a military base near Lampak, and took a cashier job at the PX. The woman in charge, Ince Keeling, said. Elizabeth was shy but stunning. Her blue eyes and curvy figure made the soldiers fall in love. In February she was voted Camp Cutie of the Week, and her photo ran in the base paper, but that didn't last either. She left after just a few weeks. Rumors said a sergeant she lived with had abused her. Once again she ran. In September 1943 she was arrested in Santa Barbara for underage drinking. She was 19 and sitting in a bar when a policewoman arrested her. That's when the famous mugshot was taken, the one where she looked both defiant and broken. The officer who arrested her ended up feeling sorry for her and let her stay at her home for 9 days. When the authorities tried to send Elizabeth back to Massachusetts, she refused. She went to Florida instead. In 1945, Elizabeth Short was just 21 years old. She had no money, no steady place to live, and no clear path forward. But she had one thing people noticed right away: her face. So she turned to the only thing that gave her hope: pin-up photos. She showed up again and again for shoots, with photographer Arthur James, wearing the same clothes each time. Sometimes she hadn't eaten. Sometimes she looked exhausted, but she smiled, posed, and tried to look like she belonged in Hollywood. James later said she never asked for money. She just wanted the photos to be seen by the right people. She hoped they would open doors. As time passed, the pictures became bolder. Not scandalous, but clearly more daring. Not because she wanted